Hey, welcome in to Health Monday with Jared and Jacob Johnson from Marble City Pharmacy in Sylacauga, your local #1 pharmacy in our area. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
I like that. We
Good
may
morning.
put you on our
What an
next
intro,
commercial.
right?
Yeah.
Where have you been? I was just wondering where you'd been.
It's summertime, vacation time.
Oh, well, anyway, hey, we're talking about something this morning that you have happened to you on vacation or at home or wherever you may be, and it's something, what did you say that was?
Constipation.
Yeah, well,
Just because I can't write.
that's terrible writing, I'll tell you. I can tell you've been, well, anyway. Define constipation.
Well, I think we probably all have an idea of what we think constipation is. We got to be on the same page, right? First of all, the normal number of bowel movements in a week is different for everybody, right? And so sometimes people will say constipation is if you have less than 3 bowel movements per week, but for the person who has 1 or more every day, it could just be a decrease in frequency from what your normal number of bowel movements is, all right? So don't worry about the 3 per week or any of that. A better definition would be a decrease in the normal frequency of your own bowel movements. We start thinking about other things that go along with that. Your stools become harder. You have to do more straining. It's more difficult to pass stools. So all those things kind of go into what we're talking about when we use the term constipation.
What about some causes, Jacob?
Lots of good things. Generally, probably more technically than we're shooting for, constipation is caused when your food that obviously will become your stool doesn't pass through your intestines fast enough. And so what happens, it sits there too long, your body sucks all the water back out, and now you get the hard, difficult to pass stool. So anything that causes it to pass too slowly through your system is what causes constipation. Now, what are actually some of those things? Not drinking enough fluids, not moving around and exercising enough, being still, being sedentary, not eating enough fiber foods. We can talk more later about what those are, but not getting enough dietary fiber. Holding it too long when you have to go. Listen, you're working sometimes, you got too much to do, I can't stop right now. Holding it too long leads to constipation. And then certain things, those are all things we don't do in time. Things we do that can affect it. Medicines we take. Pain medicines being the #1 cause. Pain medicine's a big deal. But medicines for other things, there's certain blood pressure medicines or depression or, seizure medicines. There's a lot of different medicines in different categories that cause this. So it's something we have to be aware of. Allergy medicines. And then diseases you have, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. One of the predominant effects of that is constipation. And honestly, a lot of people out there, diabetes has an issue with this. So diabetes can lead to constipation. Lots of issues leading to this.
Jared, who is most likely to be affected by constipation?
Well, one of the reasons that we talked about it this morning is probably our audience. Our audience, generally speaking, is the older community, and the older you get, the more likely you are to be constipated. That may have something to do with just our body systems beginning to slow down as we get older. But it definitely has something to do with, as we get older, we generally intake less fluids or drink less water. And we generally exercise less and move around less. Begin to get arthritis. Things don't work like they're supposed to anymore, right? The level of exercise and activity we have just slows down. We get to retirement. We're no longer moving around on whatever our job is. So people who are elderly, believe it or not, females more than males experience constipation. Don't ask me why. Don't necessarily know the science behind that. Jacob already mentioned this, but people who are sedentary, if you're not up and you're not moving around, you're a perfect candidate for pregnancy. You're a perfect candidate for constipation.
It's okay.
And that's
okay.
where I was going next,
Yeah.
which is constipation is extremely common in pregnancy. And so those women have to be a lot of times on medication to help with that.
So how do we go about, Jake, in preventing this?
Got it. Well, in preventing it, it goes back to all the causes, and so it sounds like the exact reverse of everything I said a minute ago, but that's okay. It's important. Let's hit it again. High fiber foods. Okay, what are those? I said it a minute ago. What are those? It's all the stuff your mama made you eat. You need to eat more vegetables. You need to eat more fruits. You need to eat more whole grains. You need to eat more beans. Those are all, there are others, but those are all great examples of things that are high in dietary fiber. Eat more of those things. And the next one will shock you. Eat less of other things, highly processed foods, fast foods, fried foods, all of those things. Eat less of those.
Does that include Cheetos?
I'm not even sure they categorize those as food, so I don't know what we'd say about that. But I know you eat plenty of them.
You're showcasing a lot of people's problem this morning about, fast food and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I never thought about it like that.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
here's the deal. We don't go a 10-hour workday without talking to 10 people individually every single day about this. This is real.
Yeah.
This is everybody. Got to drink more fluids. Nobody drinks 64 ounces of water like they're supposed to. 64 ounces of water and or other water-like fluids, will not Coke, will help you with this, help prevent this. Stay active, exercise, move, do things. Keep your gut moving and your body moving. Don't ignore the need to go pass a stool, because I'm working and I'm busy right now. Let me hold this for another couple hours. That's going to get you backed up every time. Those are your main things. But again, what you eat, what you do, what you drink. Those are the three main ones.
It's not in our notes, but I guess if you don't do the right things, eventually constipation can cause further problems.
Well, it can, and some of the things that you're looking at, there's just no nice way to say this, but one of the main things as your stool sits in your colon and the water is being reabsorbed by your colon, it gets harder and harder and harder. Then unfortunately you can get some damage to your body. So one of the most common things is something called an anal fissure, and that is a fancy word for a tear in the anus. It's incredibly painful. And so you also are more likely to be infected. This doesn't happen very often, but sometimes the colon will actually tear. And when that happens, you get very, very serious infections, sometimes life-threatening. So this is a situation where we want to take those preventative measures to avoid it. And beyond that, just completely miserable. Probably everybody watching this show, including the three of us, have been constipated at some time. You feel absolutely awful.
And Jake, this is not something that we just openly talk about. I mean, we
Oh,
come
you
in,
wouldn't
we come
think
into the
so.
drugstore and say, "Hey, I'm constipated. What do I do?"
It happens literally 10 times a day. And again, that's what we're there for. And so this is not a weird conversation for us at all. You can see we literally have this conversation 10 times a day. This is nothing weird at all, I promise. So what do we do about it is the question we get in the store. So let's start with this short term. How do we treat it? Hey, I'm constipated today. It's kind of a new problem. What do I do? Tons of stuff out there. Got a whole aisle of this stuff, but different ways to think. There's enemas, there's suppositories, there's pills, there's powders you mix in water, and those things are made up of all different sorts of medicines. There are stimulant laxatives. There are just fiber supplements. We're talking about getting dietary fiber. There's fiber supplements. There's a technical term you don't have to know called osmotic laxatives that just pull that water back in. The most common one of this is Miralax, and we recommend Miralax all day, every day, because it's so safe and easy to dose and so effective. There are lubricant laxatives. Again, in those enemas, there's different types of stuff in the enemas and different types of stuff in the suppositories. But the bottom line is, for whatever is your cause, however long you've been having it, however you need to treat it, or what kind of medicines you can take, or if interactions with other medicines, there is something out there completely safe and effective for everyone suffering from constipation in the over-the-counter section.
So, Jared, what if I'm trying all these things and I still got an issue? What's next?
Well, I don't remember actually now if we've said this, but
We probably haven't.
Well, we may have, and I just wasn't paying attention. This can turn into a long-term problem with certain subsets of people. One of the single most common areas where this becomes a long-term problem for our patients is people who are on opioid-type pain medicines long-term. And a lot of our patients are all day, every day, because they have certain injuries that they're trying to treat. Those medications will stop them up and cause constipation. And so that would be one situation. Other situations are people with IBS. Jacob mentioned IBS earlier. Sometimes people with IBS go back and forth between constipation and diarrhea. Sometimes they have diarrhea all the time. Sometimes they have constipation all the time. And so that's a situation where you don't necessarily cure that. That's an ongoing problem. And so while Jacob mentioned a bunch of over-the-counter medications that can be used to fix constipation short term, The one over-the-counter medication that we see used on a long-term basis would be Miralax. You guys probably know this, if you've been around a while. It used to be on prescription only. One of the best things they ever did was move that over the counter because it's safe, it works for short-term constipation, it works in a majority of people for long-term constipation. When you have somebody that's on these type pain medicines, though, there are specific prescription medications that were designed to work for people taking these opioid pain medicines. So they're kind of expensive, though. Some of you may have been down this road before. They're very expensive. A lot of times insurance doesn't cover them, so that's another issue. There are other prescription medicines that are meant for long-term constipation. They're kind of for more general causes, right? And so those are, unfortunately, those are also very expensive. Insurances don't like those as well, and so we end up trying to start a person first on Miralax, then we'll see where we go from there.
So, Jake, I know y'all were talking about pain medication. What about over-the-counter pain medication? Is that a part of it too?
Good question, and fortunately, no. The pain medications that do it are those, opiate or narcotic, whichever word you want to use, type pain medications. Those are terrible to cause constipation.
Give some examples. I should know.
Okay, so Norco, Tramadol, Percocet. Again, it's the same ones you hear all the time for people on chronic pain. I mean, those are the ones that are going to cause this, and honestly, cause it really frequently.
And you mentioned earlier in the show, I think it was you, Jerry, that mentioned don't worry about how many times you go a week or something like that. I've been told down through the years, you need to go to the bathroom every day.
I'm actually glad you said that,
Yeah, that's
and
a good
I
one.
probably should have addressed that in the very beginning. If you look at the average number of bowel movements across the population, there are some people who have up to 3 per day on a regular basis, and that's normal for them. And then as few as 3 a week. There's some people who have maybe 2 a week, and that's normal for them. So you get this very broad range of what normal is, right? It is a myth, I guess is the best way to say it, that a person must have a bowel movement every day. Sometimes we see people who are obsessed with having a bowel movement every day, and they come and get medication that if they haven't gone by that night, they're going to take this medication to force them to go. That's not necessary.
Or healthy.
Or healthy.
All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming this morning.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Sir,
you
thank
as
you.
always. Help Monday with Jared and Jacob from Marble City Pharmacy. And hey, don't forget their gift shop too. I want to talk about that before we go. We're changing the season. It's football season too. You got the Auburn, Alabama stuff coming in there?
Teresa put out fall and football and Auburn, Alabama stuff just this past week. She's still in the process, I think, probably, so she might not be done yet. But yeah, the fall display table's out. The football stuff's coming out.
You
We're
better
ready.
get in now. It's hopping.
Yeah, it goes quick.
And two, your drive-through, that's been a real plus for you, hasn't it?
Drive-through's hopping too.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, guys, thanks a lot for being with us. We got more Daybreak coming back. Look at the weather forecast when we return in just a minute.